Next, we have our third presenter, last but not least, one of our earliest adopters of the platform. We have Leslie Robertson, who is a founder and CEO of Open Audience. For more context, Open Audience is in London, England, just outside, and they are an audience engagement consultancy which uses its own patented technology platform to shape agendas and outcomes in meetings all over the world. So Leslie, I'll kick it off to you.
Okay, thank you. Although we're near London, I am Scottish, so I'll speak slowly, so not to confuse people. So a little story. About 6 years ago, I was in doing a pitch on the south coast of England, and it wasn't going very well. And I thought, I know what they want, but I don't have what they want. And I ended up going to a supermarket or a shop afterwards and thought, I need something that's online. I need something that is nimble, adaptable, and editable. And while we were in the supermarket, my colleague and I, we Googled platforms, and we found all the usual suspects. But we found this little company on West Coast USA, got on the chatbot, and Aaron, who's the founder CEO, answered. So it's like, oh, this is interesting. So we liked the company so much and liked Aaron's approach that we've been part of the journey for 6 years. And so our bag is, if you like, is engagement. So a client will say to us, I really want to have a more engaging meeting. What can you do? And then we get involved. So we built a business model around MeetingPulse, and we've got our own version and we call it something else. But we built a business around MeetingPulse where we would fly to one of 6 continents and spend 90 minutes in Bangkok engaging the audience using MeetingPulse in the room. And I guess like Wayne and Jess said, in the year prior to COVID, we were on 6 continents. I was in North America 14 times running clinical investigator meetings. And 99.9% of what we do is healthcare and life sciences, similar to Wayne. And so we were part of the development platform, the development program for MeetingPulse, where a lot of the functionality we put in place was to help our clients. So from the CSV reporting through to now PDF reporting and much more robust. But I guess part of it is that where we are at the moment is that we, like the others, have made the pivot to virtual. And I'm just planning to show two slides. So if you like, we went from going in the room and doing stuff physically to over the last year doing all the above. So I think we've run 5 events today, for example, healthcare events, and practically every scenario, whether it's Zoom on steroids, whether it's microsites with streaming, the examples you saw from Jess and Wayne, or through to full virtual platforms, we've integrated MeetingPulse in some way, shape, or form. But I'll show you one other slide, which is the next slide is I just did a count up because we're kind of technology agnostic because we use anybody's platform that we blend together. But I did a quick count up at the end of last week of what we've done in the last 12 months. And bear in mind, we use BlueJeans, Adobe Connect, GoToWebinar, et cetera, et cetera. But even just running Zoom, the way that the business has gone in the last 12 months is quite incredible. And I want to feature on the 120 countries aspect in a way that's maybe not been picked up by the other speakers. Because I think where we get to is we get a client who says to us, right, I'm running an event in Singapore, it's Asia Pacific, and we need MeetingPulse involved in it in some way. So you ask the question, okay, does everybody speak English? And the example goes, yes, because it's an internal meeting, everybody does. So you say, okay, can I check and can I ask the audience? So we use MeetingPulse to go out and ask the question in 9 different languages, do you speak English and to what standard? And what we found is 42% of the audience didn't speak English at all. Yet it was the 3rd meeting they'd been to that year from the company, where nice location, but didn't understand a word that was said. So we then thought about how we use the platform to engage with the audience. And what we were able to do was able to get to a point where if we gave somebody a PIN code to come in and they're a Japanese speaker, then every poll they got during the course of the event was in Japanese. If they went off to do ideas generation breakouts in the Korean room, all the polls and all that, the materials and the activities they got were in Korean for them. So a lot of what we do is international multi-language events where the use of the platform and the auto-translate is something that's really key for us. And I think the pivot to virtual that we've kind of gone through as well is that today, for example, I sat on an event that would run entirely in French and German, using the platform. Don't speak any language, but it's okay. We cope with that. I've got an event coming up next week entirely in Japanese, where again, I don't speak Japanese, but it's okay. We've run events in Japanese before. And then in the last few months, we've run events in Russian and Polish and multiple languages. I think we ran 24 languages in the room recently. And so I think the feature that's often not thought about in using the platform is this inclusivity piece. And how do you involve people and give an audience a voice where they don't necessarily speak the language of the speaker? They can maybe have conversational English, but they're not going to be confident enough to do it. And so I think the way that we've kind of adapted the platform is we worry about its simultaneous translation, we worry about AI translation, we worry about translators on Zoom, but we're also thinking about how can we adapt the platform, because each of the Zoom meetings we've run are a different meeting. They're internal, there is external, they're series of meetings, they're across different regions and various other things. So I think where we are often using the platform that's slightly different from the others is we're often involved in global rollouts of initiatives or brands or products, where there's an element of translating the videos, translating the speakers into different languages, but also, I guess, trying to get the audience to engage in a more robust way. And then I think one of the things I would maybe finish on before we go to the Q&A is why MeetingPulse and why do we build a business model around using it? And I think the thing that I've learned over the last 6 years is it works and it's robust. And I can think of a few occasions where I'm waking people up, West Coast USA, saying, look, I think I need some help here because this bit's not working. But that's very rare. And I think that when we've had a bit of a panic, the team have pulled the stops out to help us. So 99% of the time, 99.9% of the time, it does what it says on the tin. I think the other thing that we're often doing in meetings is we're building the platform during the meeting. Because a lot of the meetings that I run I'm sat with the organizing team, developing the platform as the meeting progresses. So there's this aspect where I can actually sit in physical meetings or virtual meetings and program things based on where the audience has got to, based on some polling, where we then think about how do you get more value out of what you do. And I think the other thing is this BDA, before, during, and after, and thinking about how you connect the audience in very similar ways. And I think the last thing I would say is just this whole adaptability piece, that working with the MeetingPulse team, there's a lot of the features that are maybe on the platform that you guys don't use that we use all the time. And so there's certain poll types that we've started to think about how to use to measure the average price of something. And I think there's always a solution and there's always a way to do something. And I think this is what I like about the platform that's very different from kind of standard, because the company's still relatively nimble and customer friendly. We find that the team are really adaptable to be able to do what we want. And if not, you can pay for some extra development and they'll do something specific. But I think a lot of the feature set that's used is exactly what we use all the time, similar to Jess and Wayne. But I think in every meeting we'll run it in a slightly different way. And I think that's the value of working with a platform. So I'm not going to show you any of our platforms because they look very, very similar. But I think that the thing that does differentiate us from some of the others is we spend our lives in meetings where we don't understand what's going on from a language perspective. But what we're doing is using the platform to allow us to engage the audience and measure the outcomes from the event. So that's all I was planning to say. Happy to go to Q&A.
Well, I say thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have been working for you for a long time, and uniquely, as opposed to Kinetic and Innovia, you've had the experience of using MeetingPulse in person. And so although this is a virtual event, for those that are listening, you can think about the ways in which you can use it on the phone, in the event, in the conference.